Hi, I'm going to show you how to create an assembly. An assembly is made up of different part files, .ipt files, and how you can go about is creating first a new file and choose the standard .iam for the assembly. Once that's selected, you need to have an idea of what is the first part that you wish to put in your assembly. And for me, I will put the mechanism plate to be the first part. Right, left click to put your part down, and you'll notice that you are able to place more than one part within the assembly itself. For now I only need one of this mechanism plate, so I'll just press escape and that part will be in place. Now right click on the mechanism plate and select the grounded function so that this whole mechanism plate is grounded in the 3D space. The next thing to place would be my motor plate. Let me find it, motor plate, or motor bracket, not this bracket, this one. And you would notice that the motor bracket is parallel to the mechanism plate. To make your assembly easier, click on the free rotate under position and select and sort of rotate it so that it is perpendicular to the mechanism plate. Now to assemble this motor bracket to your mechanism plate, you need to apply constraints, and the whole aim of the assembly process is to constrain all your parts to the mechanism plate that is grounded. Okay, so the first constraint that I have would be to make this surface to this surface over here. When you click on place constraint, this window appears, and under assembly we have different types of assembly of mate, and under mate you can choose to mate face to face or it could be flushed. They have angles, tangents, and you are able to insert. Right? I'll explain more about the rest of the other functions as we go along. For now, I'll use the default of mate and this type as mate. Okay, and my offset is 0 because I want it to be a contact mate. Once this is done, you click apply, and this motor bracket would be made to the mechanism plate. You'll notice that the motor bracket is, well, not exactly fully constrained yet, as it is able to move around. So the next mate that you could do is you could constrain again, and using the same type of mate, you can select on the axis of this screw hole to the axis of this slot, and you notice that this is being placed, this is being constrained along the axis, and this part could rotate. Now what happens is that this motor bracket is still not yet fully constrained, and all you need is one more constraint to do the job. So you click on constraint again, and this time round you could choose it to be parallel at an angle, and you select this face to be parallel to this face here. Okay, and you can select the direction angle to be 0 degrees. If you were to enter in a 90, you will notice that your motor bracket will be rotated 90 degrees from the face that's selected. So if I were to put 0, this is what I have. Okay, now I'll click apply to have this, and I want to check if the holes line up. Yes, the holes line up perfectly. And the reason why I have these slots on the mechanism plate is so that I could adjust the center to center distance of the gears when I put the motors together. The next thing that I can place, if you click this little triangle down below, is you could place from the content centers screws or fasteners. Okay, so it appears here. Now what has happened is that when I place my mouse over a particular icon, this video pops up and it's really annoying. So what I need to do is I need to save this file, save it as example assembly, yes, and then I need to close this window again. I need to close out the whole entire inventor and relaunch it. Example assembly. Okay, I could click place and let me assemble the 6 volt DC motor to it. Let's say 6 volt DC motor, and I want to attach this 6 volt DC motor to the motor bracket. And how I could do it is I could constrain the axis to this, I could apply, and I could move it out. And you would want to constrain the second axis, probably from the screw hole to the axis of the DC motor over here. And the next constraint would be a mate of this face to this face. Click apply. And once your parts are fully constrained, you would not be able to move them around anymore. And that's the whole entire objective. Alright. Now, other than putting down these assemblies, you would also want to place components from the content center, and you can choose the different types of screw. For now, I would like to look for a countersunk screw matrix. I can choose this, and what I'll do is I'll put the screw here, and a window would pop up to let me choose the type of screw. This is an M3 screw, and I would like to have a M3 by 6 screw. I click apply, and you'll let me drop, and I need 2 screws, so I leave these 2 screws here. And what I can do now is I can click constrain, and I click the axis of this screw to this. You see that it goes the other way around. What I can do is I can cancel it. And this is where if you rotate it, it actually helps to align it better, like this to this. And this is what I would like. Apply, and I would like the screw head to be flush to this surface over here. And what I can do is I can select flush, choose this top surface of the screw to this, and it's flushed. Select on the axis. Now how do I click the axis? I just move my mouse to the surface of the cylindrical part, and the axis will appear. So once the axis appears, you could click on the axis itself, click apply, and select flush, and I'll flush this over here. So there are various types of fasteners which you can choose and select from to put into your assembly. Right? Just go to place, and you need to place from content center. Okay, and you will launch out the content center, and you could choose. My next screw would be a socket head screw, so I can choose from here a socket head screw, and I would usually choose a metric socket head screw, so I can choose an ISO 4762. This looks pretty big, but don't worry, you just click it first, left click, a window will appear, and it will let you choose between the various sizes that you have. And for this one, it's an M4 screw, and an M8 would be good for me. So I click apply, and I will need 2 of these screws here. And what I'll do is that, like before, I would rotate them and I'll click on the axis of this screw, put this here, click apply, axis of this screw into this screw hole, click apply. And if I were to go to this view, you'll notice that my screw is not fully constrained yet, because you see I can move it around. To fully constrain this screw, I'll just need to go to constraints and select mate, this surface here, apply. There is another way in which you could constrain screws, and I would like to show you. What I'll do is I'll select this, I'll delete away the initial mate. Alright, so this is free. You click on constraint and you choose this insert, right? And what it does is that it automatically inserts this to this. Okay, but what you want to do is like that, and align, opposed, apply, and that is one way of doing it. The thing that you need to grapple with the insert function is that early on, if you noticed, when I click on insert, it will have this blue highlighted line. It will mate it to the surface of this. Okay, so I click oppose, and you may have these issues here to struggle with, and that could be dealt with or overcome by putting in an offset of -5, and this could, -5 is too much, 3, and you could click apply. So there are more than one ways in which you can assemble your screws. Okay, so you could use the insert, or like the other screw that I've shown, you could actually mate the axis followed by the surface of the screw. Okay, my personal favorite is this method here, although it's a slightly longer extra step, but it ensures that my screw head is firmly seated on my mechanism plate. So this is my assembly, and this is how I create an assembly made up of 3 different parts, and I've placed fasteners from the content center. If you need to place more components, you go back to place, and you can drop in components or even assemblies from before. You could choose a projection assembly or maybe an arm assembly, and I can put in a whole new assembly here. And what happens is that instead of a part being in the browser tree, it's an assembly, and you can assemble this sub-assembly to your main assembly. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.